Thank you, Elaine. That was wonderful. So, to the highlight of the morning, it is my pleasure and my honor to not introduce you, because he doesn't need any introduction, but to bring up Reverend Patrick, who will give us our message of the heart today. And I just want to say, this is a very special man. You all know that already, but in my heart, he has helped me so much in so many ways, and maybe one day I'll do a testimonial, but but my life has changed because of Reverend Patrick and the teachings of the Science of Mind, who teaches it better than who? No one. So please welcome Reverend Patrick. Thank you.
Wow, do I have to live up to that? Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome again. The Science of Mind, indeed, is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. The conception that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in us, around us, and for us, and there's nothing against us. And on that basis, I stand. I am not afraid to stand up and say, I believe in the principles of the Science of Mind. But today I want to give you a topic that you might be thinking about all your life, but you never called it a mystery. But I'm going to tell you about a mystery in process. The word process. So I like words, so I looked up the dictionary about process, and it says, process is an action which continues and progresses, leading to some result. That's a process. A lot of people who have a process going on in their lives usually think of it as some destiny. In other words, they have a destiny that the process is taking them to. That is what most people think about when they are feeling like they're in a process. How many of you ever said to yourself, it's just a process? Almost everybody. It's just a process. Well, there's a mystery in the process. I'll read Dr. Holmes here. He says, since the divine must hold us as part of its eternal perfection, we are fulfilling our destiny when we think of ourselves as already perfect. To contemplate that divine life, which is at the very center of every man's being, this is the very essence of mental healing. So the question I have is there in New Thought a philosophy of suffering? It is central in Buddhism that suffering brings enlightenment. But in the Science of Mind, I'll tell you what Dr. Holmes says in a little while. Dr. Holmes says we do not deny that people suffer from this or that or some other thing. But he says we do affirm, however, that thought may help and has the possibility of completely healing them from the troubles. You could find that on page 244 of the Science of Mind. But how many of us here today really have been in or now experiencing a process? Almost everybody is experiencing a process. So today I hope that you stop doing that. And I'll tell you how. You see, most of everybody possess something unpleasant going on because they think of a process as mostly unpleasant. Every process is mostly a feeling of difficulty, something to overcome, something that gets in the way, or something that is holding us back, or something. Some people even think of a process as a negative, really negative experience, because they feel that they're being pushed aside, that something good wants to happen, but the process is delaying it. People begin to feel that they are separated, they are apart. And all those things lead to suffering. Usually, the suffering comes from thinking of the process I have to go through in order to get where I want to go, have what I want to have, and do what I want to do. You see, there's a condition, and there's the emotion attached to the condition. And the condition has within it a process, the time it takes to unfold or reveal itself, the thing that we're looking for or working on or trying to achieve, or somewhere. Something is happening that is in the way of me getting where I want to go. So the emotion usually sees the condition in terms of destiny. The condition is pain, the emotion is suffering. It is sometimes difficult, almost impossible to separate the two, suffering and pain. You know, you could have pain, but you don't have to suffer from it. I think everybody in this room has some place in their body that's kind of painful. But not everybody is suffering from that kind of painfulness. In The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes says this: in treating, we conceive, or in praying, we conceive of the ultimate idea, but never of the process. And you know that most people who are in a process spend most of their time in that process. And now Holmes is saying, in treating, we conceive of the ultimate, of the idea, but never of the process. Never treat, never pray from the process. He says we are planting seeds. We plant a seed, and there is in the seed, operating through the creative soil, everything that will cause that seed to develop, unfold, and produce a plant. The ultimate of effect is already potential in its cause. Am I starting to reveal something here to you? You see, at the center of every storm, there's a place of quietness, the center of the storm. And that's often the place where people seek shelter. Or the time when there's a break in the storm and it's still, it's quiet, and you seek shelter. That's the place where you try to go. Those who live free of suffering are able to go to that center anytime. They can get there anytime, a sacred place. We are not always able to get there or even remember that there's such a place. A lot of people have to be reminded that there is such a place in the middle of the storm. There is a stillness. There is a quietness. Most of us would need to be reminded because we are so engaged in the process, so engaged in the storm of life that they must spend time worrying. But we forget it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. I'm getting there. It is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. And you know something? We are never threatened if we refuse. We are never judged if we refuse the kingdom. We are never condemned if we refuse the kingdom. But when the kingdom comes, it's free. There's no mortgage on it that we have to pay. There's no time. It's not a loan. It's a gift. It is the Father's pleasure to give us the kingdom. The gift is there. But because we are engaged in the process of whatever it is, we have a tendency to forget what the essence of our teaching is. I'm getting there. So during the storm, something is happening we're not aware of. Something is happening. There's a mystery unfolding in the storm, in the process. You've heard the saying, I am Alpha and Omega. And a lot of people think that that means it's the beginning and the end, and that's not what it really means. What it means is those two words, Alpha and Omega, are the first and last words of Greek. So they're not talking about the beginning and the ending. The Alpha and the Omega is the ultimate potential in everything, in every cause. There's an ultimate potential. If God ever had a predisposition, it would be love. It would be abundance. It would be wholeness. It would be peace. It would be joy. That's if God had a predisposition. It would be increase. It would be more, never less. There is no process in healing according to Holmes. There is no process in healing. I said that incorrectly. There's no process of healing. There is a process in healing. There's no process of healing. So I correct myself. There is no process of healing. That is what Holmes says. And I happen to have come across that in a very powerful way. There's no process of healing. There is a process in healing. Healing is not a process but a revelation. You'll find out on 179. So what is to be revealed is the healing. But how much time do we take when we are caught up in the process of healing? We think that we have to go through the process in order to get the healing. Well, that's not science of mind. The Apostle Paul, he understood some of that. And in his letter to the Philippians, he said, I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. That's the Apostle Paul. I have learned, and in whatever state I am, to be content. So the mystery is in the eye of the storm, the place of quiet contentment, the quiet moment is the moment of awakening. So Dr. Holmes says, since the divine must hold us as part of its eternal perfection, we are fulfilling our destiny when we think of ourselves as already perfect. And most people in the process are waiting for the end of the process to feel any sense of perfection. So what does the process do? The process of healing distracts us from the healing energy that we are supposed to be embracing. You remember when he said we plant a seed? That seed has in it the exact pattern of the plant. Even the tiniest little leaf that's going to come out. Even the tiny little branch that will eventually break and die off. That pattern is in the seed. So that's why there is a process in healing, not of healing. Because in our declaration, he says, never treat the process. Never pray about the process. Most people pray about the process. He says, pray from the ultimate. Another, pray knowing that the answer already exists in the seed because we are planting seeds. And the process is in that seed. The process is not of, but in. So we shift our focus when we do a spiritual mind treatment. We have to convince ourselves already that the thing that we seek is already present. And I was pleased to hear the sheriff stand up here and say that when she saw Pauline Clow, who I know very well, that she got it, that job that she wanted, and Pauline even said to her, think of the one you prefer out of the two choices you have. Think of the better one, not think of the little one. Most people say, I'll settle for the less. No, go for the greatest. Because there's a process in that germinating seed that was planted in her that she should get. Think of the greater job, right? There's her head going like this. Think of the greater job. Think of the best possible way in which your life can manifest. Think of a way in which your life can expand to its full potential. That's planting the seed. In that seed is already the fulfillment of your dream, your desire, your hope. So we never pray about the condition, which is the process of trying to correct the condition. You pray about the condition already healed, problem already solved. Because when you hold that in the consciousness of the ultimate, there is no problem. You see, God never had a problem. God never had a process. Just think about that. God doesn't need a process. God says, let there be light. And what? Light showed up. When that word is spoken in confidence, when that word says, believe, and it is done unto you as you believe, that means as the very moment that you believe, that's when the seed is planted. And in that seed is what? The full potential of the manifestation of what you ever want, desire, hope for, and dream. So there's no process of healing. There's a process in healing. So anytime you think of yourself as being in a process, know that you're focusing on the condition rather than the healed result. When you know the process is in healing, you will be healed. And that healing could be anything. There is no process of, but only the process in, and therein lies the mystery. That's the mystery of that word process. Because when we say process, from now on, I want you to think that the process is the seed, and the seed has the full potential of becoming the plant. The process is not the problem. Most people think of the process as the problem. It is not the problem. If you consider the process as in the solution is in the process. It is not of, but it's in. In the Science of Mind, Holmes says again, in treating, conceive of the ultimate of the idea, but never of the process. He says, never treat a process. We plant a seed, and there is in the seed operating through the creative soil everything that will cause it to develop, unfold, and produce a plant. The ultimate of effect is already potential in its cause. So when you are looking at in, you're talking about cause. When he says, pray from the ultimate, you're talking about praying at the level of the seed already planted, the level of cause, not the level of effects. The level of effects is trapped in the word, the process, because that's what one sees as having to overcome or live with. How many people say to themselves, well, that's life. That's the way life is. You know, what you're doing is holding yourself back from what you really have, what you really want, the power that you have, the potential that you have. But when you settle and say, well, that's life, I'll let myself be dragged behind the van with all my goods. All the good stuff that I want is in the van in front of me, and I'm being dragged because that is the process. That is life. Why settle? Select. Don't settle. We don't have to settle. We're made in the image and likeness of God. We don't have to settle because God does not make mistakes. But too many times we accept stuff as a mistake as part of life. And I know every one of you has said that at one point in your life. That's life. That's the way life is. I'm advising you, and I am licensed to advise you, that you should stop doing that and really go for the goods. Go for the goods. Turn the process into the seed. The first time I realized that, I said, oh my goodness, you mean all the problems that I had in the past was part of my perfection unfolding? Wow, I have a total different feeling about my past when I get that. Because I stopped looking at the suffering that I was engaged in because I was delayed or pushed away or whatever I turned that process into. But when I saw the seed idea, knowing that it was, the seed has the potential, once the seed is planted, when I do my treatment, I'm planting the seed. Holmes says that when a practitioner treats to be effective, the practitioner has to be convinced before even bringing the name of the person into the treatment that they're doing the treatment for. The practitioner has to be convinced that there is already whole, perfect, and complete manifestation, that there is nothing missing, and you are simply declaring it and announcing it. That's why I say treatment is a prayer of announcement, not a prayer of supplication. Supplication puts you through the process of. Acceptance and declaration puts you in the process in, because you're planting the seed into which the potential is already there. I love that. Do you? Yes. That's the learning for today. And I thank you for being good and listening and being quiet enough to say. Namaste.